Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Caitlin,
I'm Mai.
and welcome back to the Girls After God's Heart podcast. Today we are talking about overthinking.
Yay!
Yay! Something that is very prevalent in our lives and in many of the lives of the people that we know. So, I thought that it'd be a good topic to discuss. Um, I am also screaming into this mic, so because Mai says that she can hear me better if I scream into the mic. So, all right, so I'm going to start off with reading a Bible verse, which is Philippians 6 through 9. Philippians 4, 6 through 9. Sorry, guys, I'm tired. um, okay, all right, Philippians 4, 6 through 9. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whether you have learned or received or heard from me or seen in me, put into practice, and the God of peace will be with you. All
And
right.
the definition of overthinking is to think too much about something, to put too much time into thinking about or analyzing something in a way that is more harmful than helpful.
Yeah, so especially nowadays, I feel like our culture is um very much a culture of overthinking and being so obsessed with self-image and just having this constant like, oh, like I have a reputation to upkeep. I have like I'm worrying about what other people are thinking about me. And that's one of the points that we want to talk about is that overthinking is usually the result of having this fear of what others will think of you. And so the important thing about just living our lives as Christians is to remember that we're not living for the world. It doesn't matter what other people think of us because in the end, they're not the ones who are judging us. They're not the ones who are deciding whether we're going to heaven or not. Um, and by living in the faith and by living as Jesus calls us to and accepting Jesus as our Savior, we're called to live for God. We're living for just an audience of one. God is the one who is the only one that we should be living for. God is the one who, if we live for Him, He will give us peace. And so that's
Caitlin,
the thing is
louder,
not being worried about what other people think. Go ahead, Mai.
louder.
Louder?
Yeah,
I need to
just scream.
talk louder?
Literally scream. Like your voice is getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Nice. I'm getting more and more excited, and I'm forgetting to scream into the mic. Okay. Thank you. Um, so another thing, oh yeah, I just talked about that, is we're living for God and no one else. And we shouldn't be, as Christians, we have to remind ourselves every day, like, it doesn't matter what other people think of me. I know my voice is getting smaller. I can see it on the side of the screen. Um, it doesn't matter what others think of me. What matters is what God thinks of me and how I'm living for Him, and in everything is what I am doing, glorifying God. That is what we should be thinking, not, oh, is this post going to be liked by everybody? Or like, what am I gonna wear today? Like, like there's a verse that I don't have on me now, but it says, like, if God's going to clothe the flowers and the grass, then what makes you think that He's not going to clothe you? Um, anything that you want to add, Mai?
Um, as a teenage girl, like we've all experienced overthinking, like with our appearance and like because of our insecurity, and that really control us to overthink and uh, being paralyzed by in worrying, which decreased like the trust in God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And adding on to that, trusting in God, um, there's a song from Foundation which I think many people in the Christian community know, but to remind ourselves that Christ is our firm foundation by standing on the word, standing on Christ, standing on what God says, and standing on the belief that Christ has come and saved us, that we can have peace, and that if we stand in that faith and we stand on what he says about us, that we will not be shaken when the world tries to hurt us or when the world tries to make us overthink about things. And when something comes our way um, that maybe the devil's trying to throw at us, something that's going to make us overthink, something like, oh, like you have a big test, or there's this really important like gathering, and like, oh, what are you going to wear? It's important to remember that God is what we are standing on. We are standing on what the Bible says about us, and that what other people say about us doesn't matter. And in the end of it, what matters is what God thinks of us and what we're doing, again, to glorify Him. And that really, all of last week, I was kind of had firm foundation stuck in my head, and I realized, like, this is so important to stopping us overthinking is if we look to Christ and our eyes are fixed on him, we won't be straying looking for other things. We won't be looking for other people um to tell us that we are that we're pretty or that we're doing something right. We're not going to be looking for their um their praise or what they say about us. And we're going to be looking towards God. And if you keep your eyes and you fix your eyes on Him, you're not going to be straying off on that path. You're not going to be, again, looking for solace in other things. Um, so, yeah, that's just something that I've been thinking about lately is just how powerful, if you listen to a worship song, how much, if you really dig into the lyrics, how impactful that can be. And once you dig into the lyrics, really, you won't look at that song the same again because now you know the truths that God are speaking through you and just how this relates to your life now. And I think that's important thing is in worship as well. Um, even if you maybe aren't in like the right mindset or the right mood, singing the words and speaking the words of worship songs over yourself and singing them to the Lord, even if you're not in like the right mind space during it, doing that will change your mind space. There have been times where I'm sitting and I'm worshiping in church, and maybe my voice hurts. Maybe I've had a sore throat. And there was one time where I was singing and we got to the end of worship and my throat didn't hurt anymore. And that's how powerful God is and how what he can do through worship, even if you're just speaking these truths over yourself. Like, Christ is my firm foundation, the solid rock on which I stand. Like, speaking those truths over yourself and giving yourself the confidence that God is with you in the moment. He's with you where you are. And he's going to
Amen.
bring you out of your darkness and out of the things that you may be overthinking about. And just one last thing that I wanted to say is based on like overthinking about our first episode. Like, we posted our first episode, and then I was like, oh no, is anybody gonna watch this? Like, or is everybody gonna watch this? And I was like, well, calm down, Caitlin. Stop overthinking about this. Stop thinking about who's seen your post and who's like um, watched your videos. Because the thing is, we made this podcast to share with other people topics like overthinking, um, that just giving advice and how to walk with it and sharing our own experiences as well. And so, just in this past week, overthinking has been so prevalent, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about it, is because I had to remind myself, like, this is not for the world, this is for God. And God is working through us in this podcast to reach other people and to spread his word and to give this message to other people. And so, another thing is a couple days after we posted our first episode, it was Sunday, and I was like, this is a brand new week. this is a week for me to start with a different kind of mindset. The last week had been really rough, really busy with schoolwork and stuff like that. Um, and so I was like, I'm going to start this week with a positive mindset. And I am going to go into everything with the right attitude. And I'm not going to complain about it. And I'm going to look for the little things that God is doing in my life. And I carried that throughout the week. Like, even times where the day didn't go exactly how I had planned it to, or maybe something wasn't exactly quite right, I still kept going with a positive attitude and I fixed my eyes on Jesus. And it is so incredible how powerful positivity is. Just choosing to see the little things that God is doing in my life gave me so much peace. There's actually a clip that we might insert after I'm done talking about the power of positivity before Mai starts giving us the points that she wanted to talk about. Where last week, after I had gone to youth group, I had gotten in my car after the service and I videoed myself because there were so many things that God was speaking to me about mindset, about who He is, and just in general being still and listening to Him. Um, so there's a video of that I'll probably post in here, but it's just amazing how powerful having the right mindset is and fixing your eyes on Jesus is in stopping you from overthinking. Like, I probably went through the entire week without spiraling. And that is a lot to say for me because I worry a lot and I overthink. And so God really was just speaking to me last week. Like, choose joy in the dark places. Choose to have joy anywhere that you are at in any season, and it will change you so much. All right, Mai, go ahead. Go ahead and share with us.
Okay. We're definitely putting that clip
Oh yeah, we're
right
definitely
after
putting
you
that.
talk.
Have you seen it? Have I showed it to you?
No, you never showed it to me, so I'm very excited that you're gonna
Yeah,
show
I
it to me
know.
this time.
Yes, I will definitely. Yeah. This past week, I was started out this week. I was like, I'm gonna go into this week with positivity, with a good attitude about everything, and just trying to find joy in the little things, even if the day doesn't go exactly how I planned it. Being joyful and going into everything with just a positive attitude, and it's something that I've done before, and when I did that, I had so much peace. And so this week, going back into that attitude and going back into that mindset has been so incredibly powerful. Feeling so much peace and so much joy despite the circumstances. And it's amazing what attitude can do. Like, going into everything with a positive attitude, it's amazing how much that changes everything. And especially this week, I'm in my car and I was just in youth group at my church. And the message that they talked about this week was just so much about how much a difference attitude can make in the dark times and in the valleys. And just somebody just flash their lights at me. Hello. Okay. But it's just amazing how. Hello, are you okay? Okay, I'm assuming that person's okay. Yeah, they're fine. It's just amazing how God is speaking. And the Sunday, the pastor was talking about just how living as Christians, we're going to be persecuted, but how we can find comfort in the fact that God is with us. And the message today, God is with you even in the dark times. And just how impactful that has been this week, knowing that God is with me and knowing that because of that I can go into everything with a positive attitude. I can go into everything knowing that He's got me in every situation. It's just been amazing. And I wrote something down in my notes today during service. God is speaking. Listen. And you know
it's been a while since I've felt this peace, since I've felt this joy, and so I'd forgotten what it feels like, and I've forgotten what it feels like to have God speak to me through other people, through the messages, through the word. And it's been truly incredible seeing that, and then seeing how much that it's impacting everyone else too. In my life group today, there were all of us, like the message really impacted all of us, and we all had some really great things to share with each other. And so um, it's really been, God is really so good. God really did a thing. He's amazing.
Okay, so um, yeah, after we took the video of our podcast, like we were, yeah, like Caitlin said, we were both like overwhelmed and like thinking too much, and then like a few days after, or like the next day, or after we posted it, like the people in our school and people from my church started to compliment us, and I really thought, oh, it wasn't worth thinking too much, and like um, and I really thank God for helping us through to get the podcast like ready. And in the Bible, King David describes the stress of overthinking in Psalm 6, where he writes that, "My soul is in deep anguish, and I am worn out from my groaning," and yet celebrates God's intervention to help him help him. And the Lord has heard my cry for mercy. The Lord accepts my prayer. So this verse really says that if you pray, like King David prayed to the Lord because he was like very stressed, and God really answered his prayer and accepted his prayer.
I love
And
that actually because
so
oh, I'm
we
sorry.
also um okay,
I was just gonna say I really like that because
and we also should. Oh, sorry, sorry,
this
I'm so
is this is
sorry.
why just being real, y'all. Like we're not in person
Go ahead.
right now, so we're on basically like a video platform, right? Video recording platform right now, and so I'm not here to like feed off of your.
No, come on. Okay,
Hello? What? What just happened?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, technology is weird, y'all. I'm just gonna say that. I'm just gonna say that. um, you know what? Go back, because in all that I forgot what I was gonna say.
Okay, just feel free to cut me off and then start talking whenever you remember the thing again. um, so yeah, what this verse is really saying is that we should also pray like King David and asking for God to help us, and then to stop from overthinking. And because we overthink, um, we we get paralyzed in worrying, and we get too much focused on worrying. We lower our faith in God, which decreases. Why do I keep saying decreases? which lowers
Okay, we're
our
stuck in that essay mindset right now.
okay, which lowers our relationship with God, and overthinking also results in limits, or you miss your opportunities because you limit yourself to not do that action, or like if you're, for example, oh, I shouldn't do that, oh, I shouldn't say this, I shouldn't wear this, like what Caitlin said in the beginning as an example, and that really limits our opportunities.
Yeah, I really
And
like that. Like,
maybe people often have hard time trusting in him. Maybe because they can see or hear directly from God. And yeah, I agree. It's sometimes it's really hard to trust him because you can't like hear from him. He gives you signs, but you might not notice. Do you have something to say, Caitlin?
I was gonna say, I really love what you were talking about, how overthinking can make you miss opportunities that God has for you, or just, yeah. Because when you get so caught up in your mind and you lose focus of the path that God has for you, or maybe like you were saying, God trying to speak to you and you're not noticing it because you're worrying and you're too in your head about things, is I don't think we realize how detrimental overthinking is. Like, we may be like, oh, I'm just in my head about this too much, or like, I'm just thinking about it a little too much, it'll be fine. But when we get so in our head about things, it can cause us to really go into this anxiety, depression, just avoiding things. And with this overthinking, it can cause us to miss God's signs, like miss this. Maybe God has opened a door for you, and you're so in your head thinking about like what would happen if this window was like what would happen with this window. And God's like, no, don't focus on the window. Focus on the door that I've just opened for you right in front of you. You just came through that window. Don't go back. He's like, that's why the devil tries to throw your past at you, because he's trying to stop you from seeing what God has for you in your future. And he's trying to make you overthink what you did in your past. But that's behind you. And as God continues to help you grow, whatever was in your past, whatever silly mistakes you think you made, or whatever, you know, bad things you did in your past, that's behind you now. You're made a new person in God every day by choosing to accept Jesus, by choosing to live as the Word tells you to, by choosing to focus your eyes on God. And by doing that and not paying attention to what was in your past, and by saying, like, get behind me, Satan, you know, I'm not going to think about this today. I'm going to focus on what God has ahead of me. And that is so radical, because we tend to focus on what we did in the past. And that's, I think, where a lot of our overthinking comes from, is maybe not overthinking the future, but overthinking what's in our past. And like I said, the devil puts these roadblocks in our way to get us to overthink them, so that we can't see what God is trying to show us ahead of us. So, yeah, just some thoughts.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Oh.
and I have a question. So, is overthinking selfish, or is overthinking a sin? Do we have an answer for that?
That is a really good question. I think, okay, when you think about it, overthinking is. This is a really good question. I was not prepared for that. But again, there are some things that we just don't know right now. And honestly, if anybody has an opinion on this, like, feel free to comment, please. We'd love to know what you think, and just like what God has said to you about this topic. But I do think that overthinking leads to sin. If you let yourself continue to be in that mindset, to overthink everything, to worry about everything and be anxious about everything, like the Bible literally says, like, do not be anxious. God did not give us a spirit of fear. God gave us one of confidence. God gave us one that we can reside in him, and that he can give us peace. And so overthinking, I think, can lead to sin, and can lead to death even. Like, we've seen people who have mental health illnesses, and like depression and stuff like that, and literal death, spiritual death. Like, it's led people astray. It's led to normalcy of this. Like, oh, it's fine to overthink, everybody does it, but you don't have to. God can take that out of you. So, yeah, I think that's a really great question, though, and maybe if we ever come back to that question in another episode, coming back to that and revisiting that, because I think that's a really good question. Maybe a year down the line, coming back senior year and being like, hey, what do we think of this now? So yeah, that's a really good question. What about you? What do you think?
Um, I I don't know. That is a really hard question because I just pulled that question out of some YouTube video about overthinking, and I just thought it was a really good question.
Who made that YouTube video?
I don't know. It was just I think a lot of people like tried to answer that question. I forgot what they
Yeah.
said. I
Let's.
forgot what they talked about, but
That's a really good question, though. Honestly, I think that's a good way to wrap up this episode, is asking the viewers and the listeners, what do you think? Is overthinking a sin? Is it selfish? And just thinking about, like, resting in the fact that God's got you, that Christ is your firm foundation. I'll keep going back to that, and that choosing joy is such a radical and incredible choice to make because of how much God can use that to change you and to change your perspective on things. So, yeah.
and I feel like people
Well,
around you will see you change your mindset,
mm,
and they will
hmm
also be encouraged to trust in God more, and they
yeah, I
will
love that.
become positive too.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that wraps up today's podcast then. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this podcast, this episode of the podcast. And we hope that you learned something, that you got something out of this, and we'll see you back next time.